From then on, Matsumoto visited the compound regularly to check up on the men of the Shinsengumi. Ever since Sanan-san became the leader of the Furies, the group was named as the Fury Corps. Still, I couldn't help but wonder, was it really all right to continue researching the Furies? My heart was heavy with worry. Without him, the Shinsengumi would be nothing. We would cease to exist. If so, why? July 1865. Matsumoto-sensei visited the compounds resulted in some interesting revelations, thanks to which I have tapped into the secrets of the water of life and the Furies. It was also revealed to me how deeply involved my father was in all of this, a fact that left me desperate to find him and learn more. I recall a peculiar event that occurred one night after Matsumoto-sensei had visited. I shifted positions in bed for the 100th time. Sleep appeared to be impossible. The rainy season was upon us, and the humidity was causing me to be covered in a sheen of sweat and completely uncomfortable. Maybe some fresh air will help. I got up and opened the window. Instantly, a cool breeze floated into my room. Much better. I stared at a section of the temple compounds, savoring the feeling of air on my hot skin. Shining stars illuminated the view outside of my window, bathing everything in a soft glow. Out of the corner of my eye, I sensed something move. Who would be outside this late? The strange rumors that were floating around among the men suddenly came to mind. All of them. All of them made mention of a ghost wandered the entire compound during the night. What? All of them made mention of a ghost wandering the entire compound during the night. Being in a temple, the surroundings were likely filled with some sort of spiritual energy, so there was a reason for concern. But that's not possible, is it? If it wasn't a ghost, then I had just seen a real person, which might be an even bigger problem. If it was an intruder, then I need to report him. Worried, I clambered out of bed and padded as quietly as possible out of my room. But it's incredibly late. Who should I? The whole compound was sound asleep, and it was a little intimidating to try and wake one of them. I stopped in the darkened hallway to consider my options.
Yukimura-kun, こんな夜更けにどこへ行かれるのです?
I spun around at the sound of a voice out of nowhere, my heart hammering in my chest.
そう反応されると、何か私が悪いことでもしたかのようですね。
I'm sorry.
いえ、私の方こそ申し訳ありませんでした。君を驚かせるつもりはなかったのですが、迷子のような後ろ姿を見ていたら、つい話しかけたくなりまして。
Confusion ran through me, but he just smiled.
こんな時間に部屋を出ては、また土方君に叱られますよ。
I'm sorry. I'll be more careful.
何か困りごとですか? 私に助けられるようなことであれば良いのですが。
The smooth, even tone of his voice made me blush. With someone else there, I was now feeling foolish. I lowered my head and mumbled, I just thought I saw some shadows move outside. I was worried it might be an intruder.
なるほど。ということは、さらに申し訳ないですね。君を誘い出した犯人はどうやら私のようです。
If that was true, then... But I thought you were forbidden from stepping outside, Sanan-san.
もちろん、羅刹である私にはそのような規則がありますね。
His roundabout way of responding was sometimes hard to follow, but I bolstered my courage and asked a question. So then, you've been ignoring those commands even before tonight?
おや、よくわかりましたね。女性の勘というものでしょうか。深い意味はないのですが、散歩してみたくなったのです。
I wasn't sure how to answer that exactly. He studied my face, gently smiling.
境内に幽霊が出るとの噂が流れているようですね。それは私のことでしょう。どうにか自重しなければとは何度も思っているのですが。
Do you enjoy taking walks?
嫌いではありませんが、他にも理由があります。いくら羅刹といえど、室内に閉じこもってばかりでは気持ちも塞ぎます。そしてもう一つ、ここはお寺です。真夜中に幽霊が出てもあまり騒ぎにはならないでしょう。
I suppose. So he'd known exactly the reaction he would get from his wanderings from the start.
幽霊でも羅刹でも夜にしか動けないのは変わりませんから。
Sanan-san, who had become a fury to help the Shinsengumi, was declared dead to protect secrecy. The weight of his secrets must have been unbearable to carry, but he bore his silent burden.
これからは今まで以上に外出を控えるとしますよ。
No! I don't think it's that big of a problem. I understand you desire to be free from your confinement, truly. If the rumors of a ghost spread too much, however, there may be an investigation. Just be careful. That's all I wanted to say. My heart ached at the thought of refusing him his walks, and the only moments of freedom he was able to scrounge together in his new life.
おかしな子ですね。いえ、何でもありません。今後は噂にも注意します。
Thank you for not dismissing me out of hand. He could have completely disregarded my comment, but instead he listened to me, emotions swirling. I bowed to him gratefully. He shook his head.
こちらこそお礼を言わせてください。ありがとうございます。君と話していたら少しだけ元気が出てきたようです。
Something about the way he said that made me blurt out a question without thinking. Are you alright, Sanan-san?
腕の傷は癒えましたし、これで悩みの種も失せたと思っていたのですが、たまに自分が何なのか わからなくなることがあります。私は人として死んでいますから、余計に悩めてしまうのでしょう。
Sanan-san. He led the Fury Corps into battle, but he was also continuing his research on the water of life. Both took up all of his time, and he ended up isolated from everyone. Maybe he was even questioning his own existence.
人間でなくなった私は、過去を引きずりながらこの世に残る影のようなものです。もしかすると噂通りに幽霊なのかもしれませんね。
He smiled bitterly, but through his ragged eyes I saw pain. He was wearing himself to nothingness. I had to grab his hands. I mentally sighed with relief. It seemed Sanan-san had recovered a bit of himself again, and I was glad. Sanan-san, can you feel that? Your hands are warm. Blood is pumping through them, just like mine. You may be a fury, but that doesn't mean you aren't alive like the rest of us. Sanan-san blinked, his eyebrows rising. There are times when I don't know who I am, too. I knew there were some who claimed that I was a demon like they were. Maybe that meant I also wasn't human. But still, even so, living is to be alive. I had no doubts. The truth of this matter was clear to me. A smile stole over Sanan-san's face.
君の言う通りかもしれません。失いかけた私の命も尽きていない。
Warmth had returned to his voice. No trace of his recent harsh and biting tongue could be found. It seemed like I was finally seeing the old Sanan-san, kind and gentle once more.
たとえ私が化け物だとしても、こうして今ここにいるという私たちの存在は変わりません。ありがとう。君のおかげで目が覚めたような心地です。
I'm sorry. I keep ordering you around. A genuine appreciation from Sanan-san made my heart warm. I wasn't used to hearing such things from him, so I shook my head embarrassed.
私は最後まで羅刹の可能性を模索します。こうして生きながらえた命がある限り、決して諦めません。
Sanan-san. The fuck? Anyway. The words felt as if they held the weight of a vow, and his eyes glittering with determination. I sensed he made a serious decision, and he meant to abide by it with every fiber of his being. With Sanan-san finding some peace, it seemed the rumors of ghosts haunting the compounds faded. At last, after the long while in which I've made his acquaintance, Sanan-san felt the strength to move forward. After the dust cleared following the Hamaguri rebellion, the shogun set about cleaning house. The Choshu expedition was launched by the shogun once the Choshu domain was declared enemies of the court. Perhaps feeling they dodged a bullet, the Choshu domain fell silent for a time. Their obedience was short-lived, however, and long before their disrespect for the shogun began... Their obedience was short-lived, however, and before long, the disrespect for the shogun became impossible to ignore. In order to investigate further, the shogun decided to send an envoy to the Choshu domain. Kondo-san was asked to accompany an envoy sent to the Choshu to investigate the behavior. However, the Choshu domain refused to even meet with the envoy. Fed up with their insubordination, the shogun had ordered the second Choshu expedition. However, the war was a costly one, exhausting both the resources and men from all over the domains whose morale began to falter. To add to the fire, word of Shogun Miyamochi's passing shook all of Japan, and some domains even withdrew, which made the situation even dire. The second Choshu expedition had ended in a surprisingly major loss for the shogunate troops. October 1866. The pillar of the Tokugawa shogunate, which stood strong for 266 years, was beginning to show signs of instability. We can skip this. I lost someone's mind, but what worried me the most was the Furies. Ugh. Just as Hijikata-san had predicted, the Shinsengumi received an official request to guard the notice board at the Sanjo-Ohashi Bridge. As it turned out, the vandals were 8 men from the Tosa domain. Harada and his division were well prepared and captured them when they attacked at the Kamo River. Harada was given a reward with the Aizu for his service, and he took the rest of the captains to Shimabara to celebrate. I remained at the temple to eat my dinner alone, but my heart felt like a lead weight in my chest, and it chased away any appetite I might have had. What's going to happen to the Shinsengumi and the Fury Corps? Almost as if on cue, the door slid open and Sanan-san stepped through. Oh, hello, Sanan-san. Can I help you?
こんばんは。今日は港島原へ出かけなかったのですか?
I'm not that great with drinking parties, so...
なるほど。
Sanan-san nodded in understanding, and his eyes beamed with color as he gazed at me. The cold full moon was visible, and maybe it was because of the night time, but Sanan-san's eyes possessed a tint of danger. Sanan-san.
君はどう思っていますか? 例の薬、落ち水のこと。
What do you mean?
あの薬は素晴らしいと、そう思いませんか? 私が左腕を負傷し、薬を飲むことになったのも、すべてはこの薬をさらに完璧なものへと改良せしめるためだった。そう思えてならないのです。
Sanan-san's words slithered creepily, and I couldn't bring myself to stop staring at the floor to hide from his line of sight. His expression was so unfamiliar and nefarious, almost as if he was being possessed by something.
どうしたのです? 私の言葉を肯定してくれないのですか? あの素晴らしい薬をこの新選組に持ち込んだ高堂さんの娘の君が。
It was obvious that Sanan-san was not acting as his usual self.
なぜ何も言わないのです? もしや君も松本先生と同じように薬の実験をやめさせようなどと思っているのではないでしょうね。
I just remembered I have some chores that need doing, so I'll be... Just as I was on my way out.
待ちなさい。
He roughly grabbed onto my wrists and yanked me. I pulled against his grip, but he was far too strong for me to overcome. Please, stop! The horrible twitching madness in his eyes was too much for me and I screamed.
女の子の手首を掴んで何してるんですか、三男さん。彼女、怖がってるみたいですよ。
意見を求めていただけですよ。少々熱が入りすぎましたが。
On the other side of his glasses, Sanan-san's eyes returned to normal. The glint of madness was gone. While I felt relieved, Sanan-san had walked off as the others were walking in. As I watched him walk off, I looked back at Okita and the men. It's good to see you back. You're a little earlier than I expected, though. I was expecting you guys to come way later.
佐野さんと新八さんは朝まで帰ってこねえと思うぜ。さすがに俺は体力が持たなさそうなんで途中で抜けてきたけどさ。
It's only the three of you then?
へへへ。
What's the matter?
土方さんは住谷にいた君菊って芸妓さんに気に入られたみたいだぜ。宴会の最中ずっと隣にくっつかれてたからな。
君菊？
ああ、すっげえ綺麗な人だったぜ。
そんなに綺麗だったっけ？
綺麗だったって。つうかあんな高そうな人呼んじまった佐野さんの懐が心配だよ。
そう、僕、女の人の良し悪しってよくわからないな。
One of Kyoto's geiki, huh? She was probably just as beautiful as Hesuke said. They must have made a beautiful couple. I gazed down at myself, small, plain, and dressed like a boy. Suddenly, I felt very sad.
どうかしたのか。暗い顔をしているようだが。
いえ、なんでもない。
疲れているようだな。そろそろ我々は出た方が良さそうだ。それではな、雪村。
I will, thank you. Saito must have been looking out for me. As Hesuke began to leave my room, something brought him to an abrupt halt and he turned to me.
まあ、三男さんの様子、近頃ますますおかしくなってねえか。
The two were silent, restrained by mixed emotions. Eventually, they both left the room. Even the captains who were with the Shinsengumi Senzato were beginning to grow suspicious of Sanan-san. I wonder what's going to happen from now on. After that, the rest of the warriors who'd gone to Shimabara returned, and they told me in great detail about the Sanjo notice board incident, but out of everything I'd heard, there was one thing in particular that caught my attention. They told me that when Harada and his men had been attacked at Sanjo Ohashi, one of them had seen someone who looked a lot like me. This strange person had tried to impede the Shinsengumi and sided with the vandals from the Tosa domain. I haven't left the temple, of course, and even if I had been a Sanjo Ohashi, I would have never have tried to get in the Shinsengumi's way. But if it wasn't me, then who? What could it mean? This news only fed the anxiety that had been slowly building within me. December 1866. I was sweeping a section of the compound's desk despite being nearly frozen to the bone. Oh, we've seen this.